Have you ever felt too weak to keep going? Some mornings it's not your body that's tired, it's your soul. You open your eyes and wish the day would end before it even begins. The weight you're carrying? It's invisible to everyone else, but it's suffocating you from the inside out. There's no more fight left, no more strength to pretend you're okay. Every little task feels impossible. You smile, but your heart is breaking. You show up, but you're barely holding on. You've prayed, you've cried, and now you're just exhausted, emotionally drained, spiritually worn out. Everyone else seems to be moving forward while you feel like you're stuck in place, sinking, and in that silence a voice whispers, "You're not enough. You'll never make it." But before you believe that lie, pause. Because even in your lowest moment, even when you're curled up in defeat, there is something sacred happening. God doesn't need your strength to work. He meets you in your weakness. He steps in when you've come to the end of yourself. And what feels like the end is often the beginning of his greatest move. You try to be strong, to carry it all, but inside, you're falling apart. No one sees it, but every day feels like a battle just to keep it together. You smile in front of others, you nod and say, "I'm fine." But when the doors close and no one's around, that mask drops, and the truth comes out. You're tired of pretending, tired of being the strong one, the one who always holds it down, always pushes through, always says yes, while your soul is begging for a break. You carry the weight of everyone else's expectations, their needs, their pain, and in the process, you've learned how to ignore your own. But the truth is, strength isn't about hiding the struggle. It's not about pretending the pressure doesn't exist. Real strength is knowing when you can't do it alone and choosing to reach for something greater. You were never meant to carry it all by yourself. That's not failure. That's human. And God? He's not standing far off, waiting for you to collapse. He's right there, arms open, ready to lift what you were never meant to bear alone. The numbers don't add up. The weight is too heavy. And no one really gets what you're going through. You wake up with a knot in your chest. Bills are piling up. Responsibilities stacking higher than your energy can reach. You're doing everything you can, and still, it's not enough. The pressure keeps growing, and every little setback feels like the final straw. People tell you to stay strong, but they don't see the full picture. They don't see you crying in your car after holding it together all day. They don't see the way you force yourself out of bed, how even small decisions feel overwhelming. And the worst part? Feeling completely alone in a room full of people, like your pain is invisible. You've prayed. You've pushed. You've tried to stay positive. But the silence has been loud, the struggle constant. And it's in that moment when everything feels like too much that the breakthrough often begins. Because the end of your strength is not your downfall. It's the moment God steps in. When your hands are empty, his are full. When you've run out of solutions, he brings peace that doesn't even make sense. You're not being crushed, you're being carried. The world expects everything from you. And the moment you can't carry it all, they call you weak. You're told to hustle, to grind, to keep pushing no matter what. There's no room for breakdowns, only breakthroughs. No space for rest, only results. And when your body collapses, or your heart grows tired, the world doesn't slow down. It judges, it labels. You're weak, they say. Too emotional. Not built for the pressure. They don't ask what you've been through. They don't see the battles you fight in silence. They don't see the nights you've stayed up praying for strength, hoping for a sign, trying to hold it all together for the people who depend on you. But here's the truth. Needing rest doesn't make you weak. Feeling overwhelmed doesn't make you a failure. Breaking down doesn't mean you're broken, it means you're human. And even more, it means you're on the edge of being rebuilt stronger than before. Because the same world that calls you weak doesn't understand the power of grace, of a God who meets you in your weakness and says, "My strength is made perfect in you." The judgment of people fades, but the strength from heaven endures. There's a strength that doesn't come from you, and that's the strength that's been keeping you standing. At some point you start realizing, If it were up to you alone, you would have already collapsed. If the outcome depended only on your ability, your energy, your willpower, you would have given up long ago. But somehow you're still here, still breathing, still getting back up even when you don't understand how. That's not chance. That's not just inner grit. That's grace. That's divine strength holding you when everything else breaks apart. A strength the world doesn't teach, doesn't recognize, doesn't reward, because it's not loud, it's not glamorous. It doesn't show up in medals or applause. It shows up in quiet mornings after tear-filled nights, in steps taken when your soul feels heavy. This is the turning point. The moment the pain begins to make way for purpose, because you've been carried by a power greater than yourself, a strength not born of muscle or ego but of heaven. And that strength? It never runs out. I can do all things, but not by myself. It's Him who gives me strength. We often try to carry life's weight with our own hands, thinking that if we just work harder, try more, tough it out a little longer, somehow we'll make it. But then comes the breaking point, the moment that humbles us. Not to defeat us, but to reveal something deeper. Strength was never meant to come from us alone. True strength doesn't rise from perfect conditions or emotional high points. It doesn't come from motivational speeches or worldly success. It comes from above, from the one who knows your limits, your scars, your silent cries, and chooses to fill in your gaps with grace. It's not about denying your weakness. It's about surrendering it. Letting go of the idea that you have to do everything in your own power, because the power that sustains you is divine. It's consistent when you're inconsistent. It's present when you're overwhelmed. And this is where real strength begins, not when you feel strong, but when you know who your strength comes from. They can take your job, your health, even your peace, but they can't take the strength God gives you. There are moments in life when it feels like everything is being stripped away. The security you worked for, the health you once had, the peace you tried so hard to protect. People walk away, plans fall apart. Life doesn't ask for permission, it just hits. And in those moments, you learn something powerful. What the world gives, it can take away. But what God gives, that stays. The strength He places inside you isn't based on circumstances. It doesn't depend on comfort, approval, or outcomes. It's not shaken by rejection or broken by hardship. When your world is falling apart, His strength is what holds you together. It's the quiet resilience that refuses to quit. The breath you take when you thought you had none left. The whisper in your spirit that says, keep going. Faith doesn't always look like confidence. Sometimes it looks like barely hanging on. But even there, especially there, God's strength shows up. Not loud or flashy, but steady, untouchable, unshakable, and completely yours. You don't have to wait to win to be strong. God strengthens you in the middle of the battle. We often think strength comes after the storm, after the healing, after the breakthrough, after everything is fixed. But God doesn't wait for things to get better before He steps in. His power doesn't show up at the finish line. It meets you right in the middle of the chaos, right where it hurts. When your heart is broken, when your mind is exhausted, when your spirit is worn thin, that's when He begins to lift you, not with noise or drama, but with quiet strength. The kind that holds you steady when everything else is shaking. You might still be in the fire, still facing the diagnosis, still dealing with the loss, the betrayal, the silence. But God doesn't wait for peace to give you strength. He is your strength in the middle of the war. Real faith isn't proven by how well you walk when the road is easy. It's proven in how you stand when the ground is shaking beneath you. And in those moments you'll realize, the battle didn't break you, it built you. You thought you couldn't take it anymore. But look at you. You're still here. That's not weakness. That's victory. You didn't give up. You didn't quit. Maybe you cried yourself to sleep. Maybe you walked through days that felt like they would never end. Maybe you questioned everything, your purpose, your worth, even God. But you're still breathing, still standing, still waking up and trying. even if no one sees how hard it is. The real turning point doesn't come with loud applause or sudden success. It comes quietly, on the inside, when something deep in your spirit refuses to die. That whisper that says, "Keep going." That flicker of hope that won't go out. This is where change begins. Not when everything around you shifts, but when something inside you refuses to be defeated. Resilience isn't about never falling. It's about getting up one more time than you fall. So maybe things haven't changed yet, but you have. You're stronger than you were, and one day you'll look back and realize this moment, this quiet, invisible survival, that was the start of your breakthrough. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, and that no one can take from you. This isn't just a Bible verse. It's a declaration, a truth that doesn't shift with circumstances or depend on how strong you feel. It's a power rooted in something far greater than human effort, the unshakable strength of God. You might lose things in life, opportunities, people, stability. Maybe you've already lost more than anyone knows. But the strength God gives, that can't be stolen. Not by failure, not by fear, not even by your own doubts. Because when God strengthens you, He doesn't just give you the power to survive. He gives you the power to overcome, to rise again, to hope again, to believe, even when everything around you says it's over. So, let this be the moment you stop questioning your worth and start standing on His promise. You are not powerless. You are not forgotten. You are held, equipped, empowered. And when the world says you can't, remember who gives you strength. Everything is possible, not because you're strong, but because He is.